Hi guys, I'm Nate from Recap Now. Today, I'm going to recap a 1997 family sci-fi comedy movie called Flubber. A professor wishes to create a new source of energy that will save his college from being shut down. However, he ends up with an extremely bouncy rubber-like substance that helps objects jump higher. A buzzing alarm clock awakens Professor Philip Brainerd. He tries to turn off the alarm, but instead presses a button, causing a trash can to rocket into the air and land neatly by the curb. A machine prepares his breakfast by preparing coffee and simultaneously frying eggs, pancakes, and bacon. A robot named Weber serves Philip his breakfast and greets him. Weibo joins Philip at the table. They discuss the news that the university where he works would close. Philip intends to save the institution by inventing a new energy source. They go over his plan for the day, and Weibo shows a wedding that Philip intended to attend but appears to have forgotten. Dr. Sarah Jean Reynolds fits her bridal gown while answering the phone. She tells her co-workers that Philip cannot skip the wedding this time. Philip takes an art lesson without realizing he's in the incorrect room. He describes Newton's law of gravitation, but he doesn't appear to notice the gravity of the situation in front of him. They judge him, but Philip remains oblivious and even sees a connection between the naked figures and physics. When he sees the blackboard, he knows that this is another professor's class. Sarah calls Philip from outside, loving his goofiness. His embarrassment is further highlighted when Sarah's friend mentions the wedding, and he responds by congratulating her. Sarah is little annoyed that Philip does not recall. She reminds him that today is their wedding. She wants him to commit to be there, and tells him that this is her final chance at marrying him. If he doesn't turn up, it will be clear that Philip cannot love anything other than his books and devices. Philip works with a diverse set of chemicals and laboratory equipment. Wilson enters the room and asks Philip what he's doing. Philip tries to be nice, but the underlying conflict is clear in their interactions. Wilson discusses the news of the university's closure. Philip urges him to go, prompting Wilson to inquire about what happened to their friendship. Philip claims that he became weary of him copying his ideas. Wilson responds that he wouldn't have been able to do anything with it because of his poor recall, referring to him as a genius in the lab, but a stupid otherwise. Wilson announces his plan to abduct his fiancée. As he departs from Wilson, who is chuckling, Philip wishes him luck and winks. At home, Philip tries on his shirt and vest while conversing with Weibo. He catches a peek of his computer and notices an equation, causing a eureka moment. Philip finally discovers a breakthrough and immediately begins working on it. Weibo, overjoyed, cancels the wedding for him. Philip goes down to his laboratory and, after making a few tweaks and double-checking, places a strand of his hair into the container to act as an organic catalyst for the brewing chemicals. Before turning on the device, they take a step back. He pulls down on the device, causing everything to explode. A soiled Weibo laughs at Philip, who is astonished. He cleans up his spectacles, revealing the mess he made. Sarah glances out the church window, tears streaming down her cheeks. Wilson smiles as he thinks Philip is the one who destroyed his wedding. The night arrives, and Philip is irritated by his failed project. As he climbs the stairs, steam begins to pour out of the container. Philip returns to take a closer look. He delicately opens it up, and Flubber, a green blob, emerges. Philip attempts to touch it with his bare hands, and the slime somehow speaks with him. He's trying to figure out what Flubber is. It's malleable, shape-shifting, and prone to tickling. Philip stretches Flubber like a kid playing with a new toy. He drops Flubber, which bounces. It splits into 3 sections, and Philip performs a circus show as Weibo watches in astonishment. She takes a picture of them, recording this great time in his life, while remaining unaware that he is disregarding the special women in his life. The camera flash irritates Flubber. The slime bounces all over the place, but Philip avoids it. The slime passes through the cellar doors, and the two race after it. They watch as it bounces about the neighborhood, causing destruction in its wake. Flubber penetrates a residence and disintegrates into several fragments, causing more havoc. They plunge in black ink and bounce all over the place, instantly creating a masterpiece. Flubber is a highly intelligent creature that appears to be indestructible. Philip eventually captures Flubber with a baseball glove. Flubber overcomes Philip and knocks him out cold. Wilson stands against his car outside the church, waiting for Sarah to go. She recognizes him, and they bond. He consoles her and offers to drive her home. Philip and his squad, dressed in hazmat suits, handle a radioactive isotope and transport it to the lead containment unit. He cautiously slides it beneath a container where Flubber lies. Philip describes his plans to Weibo, and all she can do is agree with every intricate notion he comes up with. The experiment seeks to control Flubber's chaotic behavior. A shrill alarm interrupts them, and Philip recalls his wedding. Weibo tries to persuade him that he cannot leave because the experiment is not yet ended. Philip insists that he cannot miss this, but Weibo explains that he is already a day late. Sarah is working in her office when Philip enters the room. He attempts to explain, but Sarah says it's unnecessary. She gave him 3 opportunities, and each time, he left her hanging at the altar. Philip presents her Flubber, hoping she will forgive him. She ignores him, but Philip refuses to give up. He tries to show Sarah that Flubber can salvage the university. Philip is convinced that he will jump through the window and bounce back up with the help of Flubber. As he prepares himself, Flubber rips the back pocket and falls. Sarah doesn't care, and ends their relationship. Bennett, Philip's student, returns home and goes to see his father, Chester Honecker. He claims he was booted out of the basketball team and failed chemistry. Chester asks his henchmen how things happened. They claimed that his lecturer either forgot or didn't comprehend them when they spoke with him. His father instructs the henchmen to uncover something that will persuade Philip to revise his son's grade. The henchmen arrive at Philip's home. Meanwhile, Philip is busy with another experiment. The henchmen watch him from a window. Philip applies a lotion containing crystalline Flubber substance to the golf ball. He drops it, and the ball bounces around like Flubber did previously. It coincidentally strikes one of the henchmen, rendering him bewildered. He repeats the operation using a bowling ball. It goes flying again and strikes the other henchman. They lay down with red lumps on their heads. Philip fills a spray bottle with the mixture and squirts it on the floor outside. The henchmen attempt to flee, but are stunned when the ground flings them up. In his garage, Philip modifies his car. He gets into the automobile and drives away in his fully customized vehicle. He and Weibo glide through the neighborhood, jamming out to the radio. After some twists, turns, and loops, they pause to observe the night sky. Philip shuts off the ignition, and they begin to fall. Philip then restarts the automobile just on time. Philip flies above Sarah's house, observing her and Wilson drinking wine on the porch. Wilson leans in for a kiss before leaving. Sarah twists her cheek, and Philip sighs with relief. They intend to attend a basketball game between their respective schools. Back at the mansion, the henchmen tell Chester what transpired. They say Philip took his balls and rubbed cream on them. Philip's balls bounce and strike their heads. Chester doesn't believe anything they say, so they reveal their injuries. Philip and Weibo arrive home. She tries to console him, but he insists on dealing with the problem on his own, because a robot cannot grasp it. After a while, Weibo is spotted mixing and combining women's faces on his computer. She dresses up the character, names her Sylvia, and presses the Create button. Weibo creates a holographic image of Sylvia and attempts to kiss Philip through it. He abruptly awakens, and Weibo rushes down to erase any evidence of what she'd done. She feels uncomfortable as she positions herself so that it appears she has been charging the entire time. Philip wakes her up and tells her he has an idea. He will bring Flubber to the basketball game. He takes a basketball and a spray bottle filled with Flubber concoction. He sprays the ball and then proceeds to perform some stunts with it. Then he does the same with the bottoms of his shoes, before weighing himself down with a sack of sand. Philip jumps to reach the scoreboard. He practiced and nearly got blasted by his anchor. Philip uses Weber and Weebos to create Flubber tacks that will aid their basketball team defeat their opponents. He hopes Sarah will see that Flubber works. Philip is about to leave and warns Weibo to take care of the house and not cause any disturbances. She promises Philip that nothing will happen on her watch. However, as he drives away, she gives a chuckle, indicating that she is preparing something. In the locker room, Philip secures the Flubber tacks to the bottoms of the shoes. The game begins, and they appear to be children competing against adults. Back in the garage, Weibo opens Flubber's confinement container and it rushes out. In the basketball game, the opponent takes a dominating lead. Philip sits behind Sarah and Wilson. He shouts for the squad and blows his air horn near Wilson's ear. Chester, Bennett, and their henchmen are sitting courtside, enjoying the game. Philip rubs his hands in the Flubber cream combination. He puts his palms together and accidentally smacks two persons behind him. The squad departs. Philip shakes their hands one by one, transferring Flubber powers to them all. To everyone's surprise, the ball bounces high into the air. A boy rises and grabs it. He passes it to a teammate and dribbles the ball at extraordinary speeds. Big Lawrence drives to the rim but falls when his opponent comes in his way. When his buttocks touch the floor, he is catapulted up and face plants on the backboard. The ball, however, circles the rim before falling in. Everyone is taken aback as the entire squad leaps through the court and scores again. The boy shoots from the free throw line. The ball bounces back and forth between both rings before going through the hoop. Philip is thrilled and hits Wilson on the head. The game continues, and Philip's school squad is nearly victorious. A player sitting on the bench notices the tack on his shoes. He removes them, which surprises Philip. He runs to the squad before the youngster can remove any more of it. Philip encourages him and cleans the bottoms of his shoes. He throws the towel, which lands conveniently on Wilson's face. Philip informs him that if he doesn't leap, he would fail his class. The clock ticks down as an opponent shoots an open jumper. The boy jumps and gets the basketball. He somersaults to the other side of the floor and hits the buzzer-beating shot. The game concludes with Philip's school winning. The audience cheers as Sarah leans in for a hug with Philip, but Wilson interrupts them. Chester deduces that Philip is somehow involved in what happened, and his henchmen agree. Sarah and Wilson leave to continue their date. Philip barges in and requests to speak with Sarah alone, but Wilson refuses. Philip enthusiastically acknowledges to Sarah that Flubber won them the game. He believes this will win her over, but she simply recognizes him and expresses no feelings. On his way home, Chester notices Philip's flying car. Philip enters his home in a depressed state. He tells Weibo how much he regrets not taking his relationship with Sarah more seriously. Sarah occupies every place in Philip's thoughts and heart, which explains his absent-mindedness. He takes Sarah's death with resignation, feeling helpless. Weibo encourages him not to give up, but Philip believes that this is the greatest option for Sarah, claiming that she deserves better. Weibo reflects and collects the strength to reunite Philip and Sarah. She arrives at Sarah's home and attempts to enter through the window. Sarah notices her outside and encourages her to inside. Weibo shows Sarah the recording of their earlier chat. Her eyes light up when he learns how much Philip adores her. Sarah appears in Philip's room, and they share a passionate kiss. A completed Weibo affords them privacy. The two take the flying automobile and discuss how Flubber can assist save the university. Philip suggests they make shoes, but Sarah argues flying cars will make them wealthy. They return to the garage, where Chester and his thugs greet them. He opens the hood and discovers the mechanism that powers the flying car. Chester offers them a deal, but Philip claims they have no intention of selling him the automobile. They give up the chance to have the university's debt canceled, and Chester leaves with nothing. The car soars through the meadows and arrives at Ford's headquarters. A receptionist enters a man's room and asks if he'd like to see Philip's car design. He declines to meet, but then hears a honk from outside his office. Philip and Sarah greeted him and showed him a for sale sign. Chester's henchmen break into Philip's house. Weibo discovers them looking for something in the basement and destroys equipment in the process. One of the henchmen notices Flubber. Weibo rushes in and knocks one of the henchmen out. She then conceals and meticulously plans her attacks. The second henchman flees, but Weibo tracks him down with ease. She sees the other standing and goes towards him, only to be struck by a baseball bat, knocking her out. The henchmen then grab Flubber. Philip and Sarah return to Philip's ransacked house. Philip tries calling Weibo, but she does not answer. He discovers Flubber has left and goes to find Weibo. As he attempts to speak with her, his eyes well up with tears. Weibo is unable to communicate, but she makes it clear that she is aware of their presence. Philip clutches her hand and promises her that everything will be fine. Philip claims that he only has to make repairs, and she will be back to normal. However, He realizes the harm is too grave, and his comments are simply intended to console her. Weibo switches off, and Philip says goodbye to his creation and best buddy. On his patio, he questions Sarah about the spirit of a machine. She responds, wondering if he can fix her. Philip claims that he can make repairs, but he can never restore the Weibo they know and love. He describes Weibo as unique. She is the only one of his inventions with personality. Sarah discovers something and asks Philip if he remembers the word that appeared on Weibo's screen just as she turned off. He recalled that the job starts with the letter S. On the computer, they see Weibo in the form of Sylvia reading a message she had left for them. Weibo claims that on the computer is a file containing her entire design. She kisses Philip, expressing her hope that he will love her daughter as much as she loves him. The two fly to Chester's estate to meet. Philip agrees to sell him Flubber. However, Chester clarifies that there is no incentive to buy something he already owns. Philip claims that he is the only person who knows how to utilize Flubber, but Chester responds that he already has someone working on it. Philip and Sarah's shoes are covered in Flubber tacks beneath the seats. Chester offers a counteroffer, stating that he will accept Philip's arrangement if whatever Philip invents belongs to him for the next 2 years. Philip agrees. They make their way to Flubber as the car's engine starts. The flying vehicle floats above them and parks next to the room. Wilson is what brings the two together. He sits idle, like a vulture, waiting to take advantage of Philip's discoveries. Philip shows them the Flubber cream combination. He and Sarah apply some to their hands, claiming they need it to handle Flubber. Philip reaches for something in his pocket, but the henchman stops him and takes it for him. Philip proposes to use a spray pistol to reduce the temperature in the container. Chester asks his henchman to administer it to him, but he misinterprets and begins squirting liquid into Philip's face. Chester insists on giving the squirt gun to Philip's hand, and the simple-minded henchman shoots it. Philip stands there, soaked and smiling. The henchman eventually realizes and hands him the spray gun. He opens the container and talks with Flubber. The car outside prepares its light and points it towards the room. Flubber becomes agitated, and Chester orders his men to find Philip. He jumps out of the way, and the two knock each other out. Wilson grabs Sarah's arm, but she hits him multiple times, knocking him out. They play with the goons before catching Flubber, which Sarah throws at Chester. Flubber ricochets inside Wilson's mouth, and he begins to move strangely as Flubber bounces within him. Flubber exits through his rear, knocking Wilson unconscious. The next day, Philip is featured on the front page of the newspaper, having saved the university. Philip and Sarah ultimately get married in the chapel. The priest pronounces them husband and wife, and Philip kisses the bride via video call, with Weebet's assistance. They then take the flying car to the reception. Please do hit that like button if you enjoyed the recap. Don't forget to subscribe and ring the notification bell for more movie recaps. Stay tuned for our next cinematic adventure, and until then, happy watching.